Hey guys, so today we'll see what are triggers and how we can make use of these triggers in setting up the entire automation stuff which we are trying to achieve. So let's say we'll be seeing what is multi-branch trigger and what is trigger in such a manner, so that you'll come to know the differences and how we can use that in our uh, daily use case scenarios. So let's say this is one of a type of a trigger we are seeing over here. So let's say here we can see the what all the use cases and how we can consume once after creating a trigger. So let's say you want to trigger a job manually or via through a code. So then there is various ways you can do this. So there is one of the GitLab documentation which you can refer before starting to set up a token. So anything before you start setting up a trigger, you have to need a token, so that the way it can authenticate your repository or anything which you have hosted on GitLab. So you have to go into the CI/CD, and as we have seen in our initial video, so this is a pipeline trigger. So you have to go inside, click on this pipeline trigger. As you can see, I've added one of the trigger as of now. So you can use this. First you have to create one. So just you need to give description for what you are using and just click on trigger, and the token will be generated for you. So in the same way, you can use wherever you need. So only things which you have to change is, in the place of token you have to replace that. In reference name you can use either a branch name, so that to which particular branch or which particular pipeline you need to trigger. So and at the final thing which you have to change would be, so this would be your project ID. So this will be the unique part across any trigger or pipeline which you will be constructing. So this is the only thing, three things you should be keeping in mind. So this will be automatically generated. So only these two things you have to change, and that's all. So you're good to go. So now I've made one of the trigger. So this is for this project called as GitLab CI/CD downstream. So this is a trigger. So we'll see how we can trigger this pipeline. So one of the way, as they have given, so you can set up a trigger, and you can do what all the necessary changes, and you can had this under when any of the stage in script tag. So as we have seen, we have written many of the echo commands over in the script tag. So in the same way, you can use the curl command over there and trigger any of the pipeline which are across any projects. So this is one way we can use. So let's say if you want to call this programmatically, so let's say in Python. So in Python, to run this kind of a curl commands, so there is something called as a, you can subprocess model. So in subprocess model there is a function called as a run. So you can use subprocess.run, and you can give the curl command. So what it will do, even at the time of coding, so let's say you have some requirement, so you can trigger directly from your code rather than building and automatically deploying it. So these are the various use cases. So now let's say you would have been come to know like how you can use and how you can build a token, and how you can build your own curl command. So let's say we'll run this over the command prompt. So this is Windows CMD. So if you just do all the necessary changes and click enter, so it's saying curl request post is not okay. One second. So the error over here is okay. So the error is, so there is no something called as a GitLab example.com. So we have to remove this example and enter. So some of the JSON output will be given over here. So now if you go and see over here in your pipeline, so a pipeline should have been triggered by now. So yeah, it is triggered. So then your trigger will is working perfectly fine, so that you can provide this URL to any of the other persons. So let's say your developer needs to trigger this code, so you can provide this the entire URL. Either they can trigger this manually, or they can uh, couple this with any of the coding languages by using any of the modules. They can easily trigger this pipeline, uh, not coming over here. So we can see, so we'll see. So this is done as of now. So this is some basic publish stage with some stuff which is doing. So this is what about the basic trigger. So now we'll see what is a multi-branch pipeline. So to give you some context, multi-branch pipeline is nothing but, so if you, so if you so it's like code will be not be in the same repository. So let's say your code and the docker file which your, let's say a front end of your website is getting ready. So in that case, your front end code will be entirely in one of this particular repository, but your deployment, so let's assume you're deploying in any of the some of the serverless functions, serverless architecture. So you can use any cloud run or lambda, anywhere you will be deploying in cloud. So for that, actually you need some, you don't need a particularly code, you can use particular commands. So let's say take it as a gke. So gke is nothing but a kubernetes flavor provided by google cloud. So in gke you need some of the kubectl commands, or if you have completely packaged your application with helm, you need some, you need those helm charts where where you would have written the code which required for your front end to get deployed in gke. So at that time, your both the code will be in two different repositories. So what you can do is, so you can build the image of from whatever the front end code which developers have written, push that to any particular remote repository, remote image repository. So it can be a docker hub or gcr. So any of the place you can push that. So once that is done, automatically this stage should be uh, getting executed, as because, so once build stage is done, you need to deploy this. So to deploy this, how this repository will be able to communicate with this particular repository. So there's something called as a multi-project or the multi-branch multi-project pipeline. So what it will do is, once this what all the steps, so let's say there are a couple of three stages in this. So once the third stage is done, so after the third stage it will say to this repository, so it's now your turn, continue with the deployment. So it's nothing but you would have predefined saying that from at the last stage, go trigger this particular repository. So you're saying in first repository, hey, go trigger this second repository in after the third stage. So now what will happen, once all the stages present in this first repo gets executed, so it will go and trigger the second repo, and your things are done. So by this way you can achieve this kind of a trigger or this kind of a use case scenario. So let's say how we can build this over here. So if we go back to our initial test CI/CD repository, we would see something called as a, so yes, over here there is something called as S1. So S1 is nothing but the name which we have given. So we can comment out. So as of now, for simplicity, we have not given such a deep dive into what our stages are performing, but to understand the concept, so we can just see how this mechanism works. So let's say S1, we have induced a new stage after stage 2. So what these two stages are done is a basic thing. So as of now we can comment this out, changes as we have seen. So only thing we'll do is, even we can comment this artifacts, as we don't need as of now. So only thing we have done is, so we have written a test one and we have used that test one over here. So what we are doing, as I said, so we'll just trigger this by saying you have to give a key name called as a trigger, and you have to give so where your project or the second repo is present. So our second repo name is GitLab CI/CD downstream, and you have to pass the entire path. So this my username, and this you have to pass the repo name. So once you have given this, just you have to commit. But as of now it will uh, uh, get and it gets triggered. So what the changes which you need to do as of now in this repository, so we have kept one of the YAML file over here also. So if you go and see in this YAML file, we would have written saying that do whatever stuff you need. So just you needs is nothing but to execute this particular stage, it need some of the trigger. So the trigger which we mentioned in that repository is a need for this. So until unless it doesn't get executed, it doesn't get triggered, this YAML will not get triggered. So it's like a chain link mechanism. So once this job, so let's say some of the developer push into this repository, so once the build stage is done, you this will be getting triggered into this particular pipeline saying, so the project is, so it's like an interlink. So now here we are mentioning the test CI/CD, which is the this particular repo, and we are saying this job name. So job name which we have given over here is S1. So this is S1. So and reference is nothing but the branch which you are referring to. That's all. So by this couple of lines you can link, or you can create a multi-branch pipeline. So how you can see over here is, so if you go over here, so as of now it's executed. So you can see stage 1 got executed, stage 2 got executed, and S1 triggered the downstream project, and as of now it's in build phase, it's in execution phase. So if you go and see in this particular branch, or sorry, in particular repo, even in this pipeline it will be in the execution phase. So you can see it has been test CI/CD. Test CI/CD is this particular repo that it is considering it as a first phase, and the second phase is this particular this thing. So if you click on this, so you will come to know how the entire architecture is made up of. So if you click on past, so you can see this is coming from an upstream, this acting as an upstream for this GitLab CI/CD downstream. This is the upstream. So you can see it is acting as a downstream. So this is how, like, upstream and downstream triggers which we have built. So we have integrated two of the repositories, and we are using that according to our needs. Thank you.